So we all know there's many, many job readiness programs out there. But what we've found is that the sooner you could introduce lower income women to the context of the job that they'll be in, the more success you're going to have. So even as they're working on their basic job readiness skills, showing up on time, dressing appropriately, dealing with conflict, dealing with the supervisor, all those kind of basic skills, they're doing it in a customer service setting. And that really starts to build their confidence around their own skills. So they've already had the assessment. They know they have the potential to be good at this. Through the job readiness, the contextualized piece, they're really building their skills and their confidence as they move into the vocational education piece. So again, using the customer service model as an example, through our partnership with the National Retail Federation, we offer classes that certify people in the National Retail Federation's Customer Service Certificate. So it's an industry-recognized credential. And what's great about that is that the women are coming off that from the job readiness, so they feel like they already know something and have some skills going into that training piece. And it's really an amazing training program. It's classroom-based, but a lot of role-playing and real-world examples, weekly tests. I mean, it's fairly rigorous, but we find that women who've successfully completed the first two components are doing really well on the certification and passing the industry certification test and exam and getting nationally certified. Then we combine it with an internship. And this internship, for those of you who work on TANF programs or are familiar with the requirements, fulfills the work experience and community service requirements for TANF recipients. So TANF recipients have some mandated activities that they have to participate in. One potential activity is work experience or community service, basically working for free for a company or nonprofit for a period of time. But rather than telling the women that they're going to a work experience site or a community service site, which for many reasons just has a negative connotation, we call it a career steps internship. And we develop these internships with companies either that are planning on hiring from our pool or are interested in working with our pool, so that people are really, as they're graduating from the customer service certification, getting those hard skills that they need. And this is critical for so many reasons. You may remember I mentioned that people often have lack of work experience. And so this becomes their work experience. It's a place where they can get references if they're not hired by the company, where they can test out things that they've learned in their training and in their job readiness classes, and again, further builds their confidence. Now, those internships could last anywhere from about 45 days to 6 months. Typically 45 days if we're working with a for-profit company, and then up to 6 months if we're working with a nonprofit. And then all along, we're working with employers and helping address some of those barriers I talked to you about earlier. And then the employers are either hiring the graduates of our internship program, or they've already hosted some of those folks through their own internship program and are hiring through their own pool. And what we find in this model is it really addresses many of the most significant barriers I talked about. It helps women start thinking about a longer-term career and longer-term planning and what that really means. It addresses the work experience barrier through the internship. These certifications, so we do, some of the ones that we do are customer service. We also do a forklift certification, which is very interesting because it's something that women don't think about getting certified in, but we find that they have a very high level for success, and that there's really good jobs in Shelby County in the distribution industry if you could figure out how to drive a forklift. And then green technologies. And at the moment, these programs don't require a GED, so although we don't give up on helping women get their GED and still think that's a critical long-term goal, using this model doesn't hold them back. They can get the skills and move on to employment without that. So then I wanted to walk you through just a couple of women that have recently gone through this model and their experience and success. So one woman is Sharzetta. She's in her mid-20s. She's been working on her GED, hasn't obtained it yet, and came to our TANF program with somewhat of a spotty work history. She did have a little bit of background in customer service and had worked in a retail store, but didn't have any solid experience. For personal reasons, she was on public assistance, and the challenge we faced was how do we get her back into the workforce but on a real career path so that she can start building that consistency. She successfully went through our whole process. She got her customer service certification, which she was very proud of. For her internship, she actually worked as a catering associate with a company called Morrison Foods, which hosts a lot of interns for us and actually hires a bunch of them. And then through that experience, she was hired by Sphere and AT&T in customer service and is now making $9.50 an hour and working full-time. And then another woman, just to contrast a little with Sharzetta, is Marnique, who came to us in her mid-30s, had her GED, but really just didn't have any kind of path or idea of where she wanted to go. And through our assessment process, we figured out that she'd be good in customer service and forklift certification. And so we put her through both processes. She went through the contextualized job search class. She went into both training programs. We had to work with her a lot around some issues with childcare that she was having. We got through those. And then she is now working at Service Master, making $11 an hour with a lot of opportunity for growth. And she's working in their distribution department, and she's really kind of a hot commodity because she's got this for the company. She's got this forklift training, and she's got the customer service training. We feel she's really poised for success. So I just wanted to leave you with a few policy considerations to think about and things that CETO is thinking about going forward. Some of these are addressed in the WESC report that just was released. One is we do support increased time limits for vocational education for TANF recipients. Right now there's a 12-month lifetime limit. Some of our success stories, women are really taking advantage of short-term training, and I think that's an important resource, but it doesn't really address everyone's needs, and we feel very limited by this 12-month lifetime time limit and would like to see that expanded. We've also done some work exploring how financial incentives can help motivate participants and low-income workers achieve the outcomes they need to achieve. You know, we're all motivated by money in one way or another, and CETO has been part of this really interesting experiment in New York City called Opportunity New York City, where they've tested out conditional cash transfers and how paying people to reach certain outcomes may or may not help them get out of poverty. There's a report that was just released, which I believe you can access from our website, and it's very early in the stages, but the preliminary findings do suggest that the component of the program that focused on rewards for work and training has the potential to really make a difference, and that's something that we're going to be testing soon in our Memphis program to see how that would really help women get over some barriers that they have. And then we believe that there really needs to be better support as women transition to full-time work and along the career path. One of the challenges that we see, even if they get the education and training and they get the job, the first job, is they're still making $9.50 or $11 an hour. And although that's a good starting wage, when they have children and other expenses and maybe transitioning off of their benefits that they're used to, that can be a really, really challenging time. We focus on our Earned Benefits program and help them try and access the benefits they need, but we think this is an overall really important policy issue that I know is really described well and in detail in the Aiming Higher report. So the reality is that women who are even on these great career paths are going to need to start at wages that may not support their families, and we need to recognize them and support them through that. Thank you.